Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that great introduction, Len. Thank you very much, Bob and Ron. Thanks very much to all our colleagues here this evening from the Federal Conservative Caucus, and thank you to our provincial cousins. Thanks for all of you for showing support. It's great to see the Conservative movement in Alberta strong and united and ready to form the next government here in this province. I want to thank Jason Kenney for being here as well, and I want to pay tribute to him for a few moments. Since taking over the leadership of this party in May of last year, I have traveled literally to every corner of this wonderful country. I've been to every province. I've been to one of the 3 territories, going to cross another one off the list this summer. And everywhere I go, whether it's a ranch in Saskatchewan, a farm, family farm in Ontario, whether it's a Sikh temple in Vancouver or a Chinese restaurant in Halifax, all over this country, there are Jason Kenney Conservatives in every single corner, and I want to thank him for helping build the Conservative movement across the country. What some of you might not know, Jason and I go back a long ways. I was a staffer on Parliament Hill when he was a Reform Member of Parliament, and when I decided to seek the nomination in Regina Capel in 2004, I went to go see him because you could just get some advice and see if maybe he could help me out, throw some wisdom my way, any tips. And he said something to me that's always stuck with me. He said, we need to help Conservatives in Saskatchewan, almost more than any other type of Conservative, because they're at ground zero of the fight against socialism in this country. Conservatives in Saskatchewan going up against the NDP for years and years and years. They need all the help we can get from across the country. So he helped me out then, and I really appreciate that. And we've worked together a lot. And he's actually my daughter's godfather. He's actually my, he's my daughter Grace's. There's actually no joke there. I'm just guilting him into actually sending some presents once in a while. Be a better godfather, but Jill's going to give you all the birthdays so you can remember. Okay, fantastic. But it's very encouraging. You know, coming from Saskatchewan for years and years, how many people from Saskatchewan, by the way? Okay, if we can have everyone put up their hand at the same time. If you are from Saskatchewan or if your parents were from Saskatchewan, how many people in the room? Holy smokes. That is fantastic. That is why people from Saskatchewan love saying nice things about Alberta, because we feel like we built 2 great provinces in this wonderful country of ours. But I can think of no better example than Saskatchewan and Alberta for the proof that government policy can affect the course of history for a people or for a province. For years and years, people left Saskatchewan under the NDP government because opportunity and prosperity wasn't happening there. And they went to Alberta to find that. And the reason why that was because Alberta chose a different path, a small C Conservative government, a government that celebrated success and prosperity, a government that believed in free market principles. And Saskatchewan, for years and years, went down a different path, a big spending NDP government. One that fought against prosperity, one that didn't trust the free market to create opportunities for the people of the province. And the evidence spoke for itself. We had a very similar history, similar immigration patterns, similar waves of people coming to set up home in Saskatchewan, similar blessings of natural resources. But for some reason, all the development took place on one side of the border. And I'm very excited and pleased to now, after so many years under the NDP, live in a province where we have the Saskatchewan Party and Premier Moe celebrating those free market principles, encouraging growth and investment. And Alberta, for years and years, offering that beacon of hope for people all across the country, people from Saskatchewan, people from Atlantic Canada coming to join and benefit from the prosperity going on here. That hasn't been happening for the last few years because of the NDP government here in Alberta. So I know that all of you in this room are going to do everything you can to fix that problem and make Jason Kenney the next Premier of Alberta so that we can restore common sense government right here again. But he's going to have a lot of work to do. He's going to have a lot of work to do. This is always the problem that conservatives face when we inherit situations from left-wing, big spending, anti-freedom, anti-free market governments. And, you know, it reminds me of a story I heard a little while ago where there was a guy in a hot air balloon who was on his way to meet some friends, and he got blown off course. A gust of wind came along, and he didn't know where he was. And he was really worried because he didn't know if he'd be able to find his way back. So he saw a farmer in a field in a tractor, and he thought, okay, farmers know how to get around. They know directions pretty good, so I'm going to go ask him for help. So he lowered himself down just low enough he could holler at the farmer, and he asked for help. He said, "Excuse me, sir, can you help me out? I've been blown off course. I have no idea where I am or how to get back to where I need to be, and I've promised my friends to meet them in an hour, and I don't know if I'm going to make it." And so the farmer in the tractor stopped, and he plugged up the GPS that he had. He said, "Sure, no problem." He said, "You're currently hovering 15 feet above the ground. You are about 1,500 feet above sea level. You're at 45 degrees longitude and about 118 degrees latitude, and glad I could help. That's where you are." And so the guy in the hot air balloon looked at him and said, "That doesn't help me out at all. You must be a conservative." And the guy in the tractor said, "Well, I am. How'd you know that?" He said, "Well, you've given me information that's correct, but I have no idea what to do with it. I'm no better off than I was before." So the guy in the tractor said, "Well, you must be a liberal." And the guy in the hot air balloon said, "Well, yes, I am. How'd you know that?" And he said, "You don't know where you are or how you got here. You have no idea how to get to where you want to go. You've made a promise that you can't keep. You've risen to great heights thanks to a lot of hot air, and now you expect a conservative to solve your problem." That's what Jason's going to be facing. That's what I'll be facing. That's what Premier Doug Ford of Ontario is currently facing. I got to tell you, I am so excited. I landed in Toronto just before I spent Canada Day in southwestern Ontario, and as the plane pulled into the gate and they opened up, I thought, something feels different right now. A big weight has been lifted off the shoulders of the people of Ontario, and it was a great experience to see the Ontario people vote in favor of a party that was dedicated to lower taxes, to balancing the budget, and perhaps most importantly at all, in this juncture of time, a party that is committed to fighting against the carbon tax. You know, as conservatives, we're not always up just against the other parties, are we? You know, it's not just the Liberal and the NDP that we have to fight and engage with to convince Canadians of the merits of our policies. We often have to fight against a whole bunch of people who pretend like they know better. A whole bunch of people in their ivory towers who just are frustrated when the Canadian people don't agree with them, when they don't agree that deficits can work or that carbon taxes are the way to go or that, you know, somehow Canada should be embarrassed about our natural resource sector. And when Canadians ignore them, they get frustrated, and they actually write articles. And there was one during the Ontario election that particularly struck a chord with me. A poll was done during that election, and the results showed that 7 out of 10 Ontarians opposed the carbon tax. And the article that was written had the headline that the people of Ontario don't support the carbon tax because they don't understand it. I thought, how condescending is that? I've traveled all over this country. People in Ontario, people in Saskatchewan, people in Alberta, people in Atlantic Canada. We don't support the carbon tax because we do understand it. We know it's a cash grab that does nothing to grow the economy or help the environment. But it's always good being in Alberta. I got to tell you, as a conservative, it's like recharging your batteries when you're in Alberta. You can sense it as soon as you get off the plane or you cross over the border. And talking to people over the past few days, it has been truly inspiring to reconnect with people here in Alberta. You know, it's in your DNA. It's in your DNA to be entrepreneurs. It's in the air to support free people making free decisions. It's in the rivers and lakes and forests, that principle of knowing that there's more to society than just government. And that is a big difference between conservatives and Liberals, and the NDP, and all those on the left, isn't it? We know that governments don't build or create. Free people making free decisions, building their community and building the country. That's what creates a nation and an identity. And if there is one province that has exemplified that over the course of its history, it is Alberta. You know, with 1/10 of the population of Canada, Alberta is responsible for the creation of 1/6 of its wealth. That is a great record to be proud of. And the people of this province have done that for generations by overcoming all kinds of hurdles and obstacles. Some of them are imposed upon us by Mother Nature. You know, a growing season that can be a little bit shorter, winters that can be a little bit harsher, natural resources that can be a little bit more difficult to get out of the ground here than in other parts of the country. But the people of this province have come together and they've innovated and they've worked harder and they've overcome those obstacles. But what really hurts, what really stings, what really feels like we're getting kicked when we're down is when those obstacles are put in place by government itself, by politicians who claim to be helping but actually do far more damage than anything else that have ever been put in our way. And all we have to do is look at the federal Liberal record to see examples of that. You know, we see the left in general and the Liberals emboldening all those people who are protesting Alberta's abundance of natural resources. Just the other day, I don't know how many people saw this, but in Vancouver, we saw people hanging down from a bridge, blocking exports of Canadian energy. Justin Trudeau has traveled to Europe, where he tells his friends and the European elite, the millionaires that he meets in Davos and across all the European countries, he says that he's working to phase out Canada's energy sector. Shame. I am sick and tired of having a prime minister that is embarrassed of our natural resource sector. Canadians deserve a prime minister that is proud of our natural resource sector, our energy sector, and the men and women that create that prosperity for all Canadians. And it frustrates me when I see those people protesting our energy, oil and gas that's taken out of the ground, with the highest environmental standards, with the highest labor standards, with the most benefiting all Canadians from across the country. Whether you're a senior or a retired teacher, whether you're someone who's saving for a home, we all benefit from Alberta's abundance of natural resource wealth. And I see people protesting that. And I see them blocking shipments of that, lying down in front of bulldozers or chaining themselves to trees. But I don't see them lining up and down the St. Lawrence, while tanker after tanker of foreign oil coming from places like Algeria and Saudi Arabia, places with terrible human rights records, come into Canadian markets. That is the double standard of the left in this country. That is the hypocrisy that is on display every single time these debates are had in the House of Commons. And now we live in a world, we live in a country, after just 3 short years of Liberal government and Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, we now live in a country where in order to build a pipeline, the government has to pay $4.5 billion to an American company to invest in another country. Conservatives will restore sanity to our regulatory system to get those pipelines built with private sector dollars, with investors' dollars, and not require an act of parliament or a big government bailout to get them built. And we've been fighting against these massive multi-billion-dollar Liberal deficits. Remember during the last election, we were promised, Canadians were promised by Justin Trudeau that the budget would be balanced in just 4 years. You didn't know how it was going to happen, so it was going to budget itself, balance itself. Now we know what that looks like, $18 billion deficits. And we know as Conservatives that we are fighting for balanced budgets, not just because we like black ink on the ledger book, not just because we want to see a favorable article in the Financial Post, but we know that deficits today mean higher taxes tomorrow. We know that when the government spends money it doesn't have, that they are reaching into the future and taking that money for my children and your children and their grandchildren to spend today. That is intergenerational injustice, and Conservatives will put a stop to it by getting us back to balanced budgets. You know, the Liberals claim that they have a monopoly on compassion. Everything they do, they wrap themselves up in trying to do good for other people. But it's Conservative policies that actually do that. There is nothing better for a young person or a new entrant into the workforce or a new Canadian than a Conservative government that is looking to lower taxes, increase opportunity, and help businesses do what they do best, create jobs and opportunity. And there is nothing worse for those same individuals than a Liberal government that is taxing away prosperity, driving out investment, and killing jobs and opportunity through ever-increasing regulations. That's the difference between Liberals and Conservatives. There's nothing compassionate about an immigration system that allows thousands of people to cross into Canada illegally, while there are legitimate refugees and those facing persecution in camps around the world who have to wait longer because some people are just skipping the line. There is nothing compassionate about a Liberal justice system that puts the rights of criminals ahead of the rights of law-abiding Canadians. And there is certainly nothing common sense about a new gun registry bill that has the words registration or registrar over 60 times in the bill, but doesn't have the words gang or criminal organization even once in the bill. Conservatives will target the real gun criminals in this country, and those are those who are smuggling in firearms illegally and using them as part of being a gang in big cities. That's who the real criminals are. That's who Conservatives will always go after. So I'm so excited in the next few months, working with my Conservative colleagues, to start outlining more and more of what a Conservative vision for this country is. And it is one that fights against the politics of envy on the left. Because we know that's what the left is so good at. The NDP and the Liberals constantly think that in order to create prosperity, you have to first take it away from someone else. In order to lift somebody up, you have to first drag somebody else down. And Conservatives reject that. You know, I got my start in life thanks to a small business. I waited tables going through university, and I benefited from the risk that that small business owner put on the line. And I was able to pay off my tuition thanks to the hard work that I provided, but thanks also to the business that hired me. And as that business did well, I benefited. And that's an important lesson that Conservatives know, and we just have to keep explaining to the next generation of Canadians. And that is, prosperity is contagious, and success breeds other types of success. And you cannot create wealth and opportunity by destroying it in other places. That is a Conservative principle that we are proud to stand behind. So we're going to be outlining and putting before the Canadian people a broad series of positive Conservative policies that will speak to improving the quality of life for all Canadians, no matter who you are, no matter where you come from. Because Conservatives believe in that very forcefully. And we're winning. As Len said, you know, in the past few months, we've been fighting against the carbon tax. We've been fighting against the carbon tax cover-up. You know, Ralph Goodale, the other day, had the audacity to criticize the Saskatchewan government's analysis of what the carbon tax would cost. And he said the carbon tax cost that the Saskatchewan government came out with was not credible. This is part of the government that is hiding the real costs from Canadians. We asked multiple times, dozens and dozens of times. We actually have a document from the Finance Department that contains the cost of the carbon tax and the higher cost that would be associated with it. And do you know what it says? Neither do I, because they blacked it out. They actually redacted the entire document. So they won't tell Canadians. We've been fighting against that. We've been standing up for our natural resource sector. We've been talking about reviving important nation-building projects like Energy East that would bring Alberta's energy to eastern markets and help get us off of foreign oil. And while we've been doing all that, we have been winning. And I'm so proud to welcome a new member of the Conservative team coming from the province of Quebec in a riding that we hadn't won since 1997. And that lesson has taught me that we can stay true to our Conservative principles. We can fight against deficits. We can fight for smaller government, lower taxes, and a more dynamic private sector. And we can win everywhere in this country. And I want to sincerely thank all of you. Thank you all for being here tonight. And thank you for the support that you've given this party for generations. This is where the flame of conservatism is kept when conservatives don't win elections. You keep the fire burning here at home. And you allow us to recharge, to rebuild, and go back out again and fight the fight again. And I want to thank everyone in this room who has been a part of that. Thanks to so many Alberta and Western ridings who transferred funds to Chicoutimi-Fjord to help our candidate there so that we could get that positive Conservative vision. Thank you for all of that. Because it's going to take a lot of that. We're up against a big opponent in the next election. We have a celebrity, a prime minister, who makes news every time he shows up in front of a camera. Every time he takes off his shirt, every time. That is a promise I will make. This will stay on all evening. Nobody wants to see this, I can assure you. But it's going to take all of us working together. It's going to take hardworking volunteers in Alberta, Saskatchewan, and across the West. It's going to take the people of Ontario, the EDAs we have there, those nominated candidates that we've already got in Atlantic Canada, reconnecting, re-earning the trust of the people in every corner of the world. We're all going to help each other out. All of us working together. One of the things I've learned in the past little bit, after being in this position for over a year, is that we can win in 2019. And with your help, with your dedication to the Conservative movement, not just here in your local EDAs, but by helping out ridings all across the country, all of us working together can make sure that Justin Trudeau is a one-term Prime Minister. Thanks very much, everyone. I really appreciate it.
All right. Well, thank you, Andrew. Let's give him one more big Calgary Stampede round of applause for Andrew.